Hi guys, and welcome back to another video. If you are an EVO 10 owner, then this is definitely a video you're going to want to pay attention to. It could mean potentially saving your engine for the sake of 10 to 15 pound. So let's get the intro out of the way and I'll tell you what we're on about today. So yeah, what could potentially cause engine failure for the sake of 10 to 15 pound? Well, it's a simple path and it's basically a fuel relay. Why would a fuel relay potentially cause your engine to blow up? Well, apparently these EVO 10s are known for having potentially sticking relays over the years, and this is actually the relay for the fuel pump. Now obviously when you put your foot down and the turbo is to generate boost, the computer will put additional fuel in, and it's basically going to calculate the air to fuel ratio to be within a certain sort of recipe, the perfect recipe for the engine, so that the car can be powerful and also be safe. Now what can happen is if that recipe is out, or the mixture of air and fuel, the ratio is out, then that can potentially affect the temperature of combustion. So it can basically, the engine can burn a lot hotter, so hot in fact that it could actually melt a piston. Or if it was to run too rich, too much fuel was to go in, then that fuel would actually affect the engine oil, and it could potentially wear out your engine very quickly too. So whether it's not enough fuel or too much fuel, it's going to cause some serious damage to your engine. Now, both speaking in the clubs, looking on YouTube, there's quite a big YouTuber, his name's Devin Niemela. He's actually been chasing a fault on his car about a year ago, I think it was, and he basically traced it down to this fuel relay. And looking through the clubs, looking online, it's definitely a common fault, and I'm going to basically do a back-to-back test today. I'm going to test whether I can feel a difference. I spoke to a friend of mine who lives local with an EVO 10, and he basically replaced his fuel relay, and he said he could feel a difference in the way the car drove. So I'm going to basically be testing for a difference, a back-to-back test. I don't have an air fuel ratio gauge or a wideband, so I can't tell you for sure if my relay is currently faulty and this one's going to make any difference, but I should be able to feel some sort of change in the car if the old one was gone. So let me show you which is the actual fuel relay under the bonnet. So we're at the engine bay now of my EVO. Now let's just go to the fuse box. We pop the cover off, and here we can see the fuel relay. Now looking at my engine bay, it looks like they've already been updated actually, because usually that's grey and these are black, and that's black as well. But I've got an updated one from Indigo GT just in case, because you never know with these things, and it's worth being safe, especially with something this serious. So these have already been upgraded. I'm going to take it out for a drive. I'm going to pull this one out, which is the fuel pump relay, and then I'm going to replace it for the brand new one. Now I bought this from Indigo GT, they're local to me, so I literally just drove down and bought it. It's a black one as well, same as that. It's newer than the one that would have come in this car from factory. There's different revisions, there's about 5 in total. I was a bit disappointed to come home and find out that this is only revision 3. There's actually a blue one and an orange one that have come after this, but it's a brand new relay. It's going to last at least 5 years. I don't think it makes much difference really whether it's revised or not. It's going to work at least for the next few years. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Now let's go out and take this EVO out. Okay, so I'm in my car now. I've got my laptop and my Diagnostics open port 2.0 cable. Last time, I'm not sure if you remember the video where I was doing the gearbox reteach. Well, when I was getting EvoScan to work so I could sort of do some fault finding, I did have some stored codes in the ECU relating to the fuel relay. Now, although I'm pretty sure they were historic and there's no current fault, I thought I did reset them at the time, and it'd be interesting to see if they've returned. So that's what I'm going to do now. Okay, so there's no codes that have returned, but I've already had the code in the past, so if it's not currently a fault, it's been a fault in the past, which might be something to do with why they look like they might have been revised at some point, those relays, but we'll go out and test it anyway. Alright, so here it goes. Now, just for the record, I don't think we're going to see a difference. I know people have done, but looking at my relays, I think they've been looked at already. So I'll just do a second gear pull. I'm not really going to thrash it too hard. And I'll just see if I can feel an improvement in the mid-range. Feels pretty good. Feels powerful, linear, smooth. Now, let's go and change it. I thought I'd take the opportunity to show you what she looks like. Looking much better than he used to. The paint match isn't perfect, but I think it looks worse on camera than it does in real life. So yes, new relays fitted, let's test it out. This video is not as interesting as I'd first hoped, because my car's definitely got the uprated fuel relay. So at least someone in this life has looked after it. Probably not the same guy that painted the bonnet and roof black. But yeah, let's go and see if we can feel a difference. That does feel different. Feels faster. See, because the code was there saying fuel relay, I did have my suspicion something might be up, which is why I've come to this conclusion. It feels slightly more aggressive in the mid-range. Oh, and further update as well. In my last video when I was driving the car, I talked about, or I was sort of thinking to myself out loud, what sort of mods this car may have. Well, I still am yet to confirm whether it's mapped or not. But one thing I can tell you for definite is it pops flames. So I've actually had someone behind me when I was driving it spirited down a Welsh B road, and they said there was massive flames popping out the back of it, and you might hear them banging a couple of, occasionally. So that might be I don't know, I don't think a standard car does that. I still don't think it's 400 horsepower, but I mean at the least it's decatted, so a decat would probably, without a map even, add a bit of power, I'd have thought. It feels like an improvement, but I suppose when you're waiting for an improvement or you're looking for one, you'll see one, won't you? I'll leave it to you. Compare the first clip, second gear pull. So you would have just seen the footage of me in the car comparing the fuel relay before and after being replaced. I did have an original conclusion I filmed earlier, and I'm editing the video now late at night, and I'm not really happy with the conclusion. I basically concluded it's probably placebo, but I can feel an improvement. But I've come home now, and I've been in the house for a number of hours doing a bit of research, and I'm happy that there's enough evidence to back up that that relay has probably made a real difference to the actual car, and it's not just something in my head, it's not just placebo. And I'll tell you why. There's a few people on YouTube who've done exactly the same video I've done, but with a wideband fitted, and they've seen the air-fuel ratio jump by 2 points. Now it's gone from high 13s under wide open throttle to 11, or low 9s to 11, depending on what sort of failure was, happening with the relay. So I'm happy that, there's evidence to suggest that the relay has made a difference, because it's made a difference for other people who have tested it more thoroughly than I have. But one thing I can definitely tell, and it's not placebo, is the smell coming out of the exhaust. Now when I'm driving the car, if the windows are open and I'm in traffic, I can smell exhaust fumes to the point I thought I might have an exhaust leak. I don't have an exhaust leak, but they are so strong they'd actually give you a headache after long enough. And since doing that, the smell out the exhaust is totally different. It's not so pungent, it's not so strong. So something's happened again. Maybe it was running rich, I don't know, and it's leaned out back to where it should be. I'd be speculating, but I'm happy with the research I've done to say that it's probably made an actual improvement, and it's not just in my head. And not just that, EVO scan, remember we had a historic code for fuel relay fault, and when I've scanned again, obviously it's not there. I know it wasn't there before we went out, but it wasn't there when we got back either. So I hope you have found this video informative. I hope you have enjoyed this video. Let me know what you think in the comments, because on the Evo clubs it's generated quite a bit of activity really. There's a lot of people who are putting those relays in, and they're noticing difference in their fuel ratio or in just generally the way the car drives. So yeah, hope you have found that enjoyable, and let me know in the comments. Cheers.